What if the greatest time travel journey of all time wasn't to the past, but to the future? Imagine a samurai warrior, master of the sword and the Bushido code of honor, waking up in the year 2100. What would be more shocking to him? His swords and fighting skills being useless, the world having lost its honor, or the loneliness of fighting for values no one understands? Join us on the first day of a legendary warrior in our world of tomorrow. The culture shock will once again be our guide. Kaito knew the sound of the wind in the bamboo, the distant cry of a bird, the comforting sound of his blade cutting through the air in a perfect strike, the smell of wet earth, the smoke from the fire, the presence of a living, pulsating forest. But this chorus of machines, this endless electronic hum, this artificial light that did not come from the sun, it was a silent terror he never imagined. He who was once the king of his tribe felt his body was a strange, heavy, disoriented object. The stasis pod opened with a hiss, and his hunter's eyes, accustomed to deciphering darkness and natural light, were assaulted by a cold, sterile light emanating from smooth, shiny surfaces. He rose, his muscles dormant, feeling the metallic, cold air enter his lungs. He touched his armor of leather and steel, his only familiar comfort. But the smell of plastic and electricity around him was a strange and bland one that told him nothing of danger or safety. His awakening was the beginning of a sensory nightmare, of an immersion in a universe that defied all the laws he knew. His sharp senses, trained to detect the slightest movement of an enemy in the shadows or the faintest trail on the ground, were useless against invisible threats, against machines that feel no fear or honor. He tried to move with the stealth of a predator, slinking through the shadows cast by holograms. But he realized that he was being watched by electronic eyes that saw everything, security cameras that followed him without any emotion. In his world, a warrior knew when the battle was about to begin. Here, the battle seemed to have already ended. He saw cleaning robots gliding across the floor, ignoring him, and delivery drones flying through the sky. He realized that his martial skills, once the pinnacle of human evolution, were now a useless burden in a world of steel and silicon. Where was the courtesy, the respect for elders, the unwavering loyalty to his lord? The Bushido code, the backbone of his existence, seemed to have no meaning in this world where reputation was built on numbers and offense was punished by invisible crowds. Kaito stopped at a point where a large holographic screen showed a public figure being cancelled for saying something incorrect. Their image was distorted, and the people around him watched it with repulsion. He didn't understand the words, but he understood the language of ostracism. Honor for him was a matter of life and death, of dignity. Here, it seemed to be a commodity, something to be bought, sold, and manipulated. He saw people shouting at each other through small devices, arguing about something they couldn't touch or feel. His mind, trained for the simplicity and brutality of war, could not process this abstract and meaningless complexity. Kaito's predators had no sharp teeth or deadly claws. They were electronic eyes that saw everything, metallic voices that judged without emotion, machines that enforced invisible laws. Encountering a security robot, Kaito felt his heart race. The robot, with an angular design and flashing red lights, issued warnings in an unknown language. Kaito drew his katana, his only familiar comfort and his only weapon. But the robot, with a force and speed he had never seen, ignored his blade. It was like fighting the wind. His defensive dance, his precise strikes, all were useless against the cold logic of a machine. He felt humiliated, powerless. His skills, his reason for being, had been denied by a creature of metal. His body, strong and resilient, accustomed to the elements and scarcity, was now vulnerable to an overly clean and artificial world, to diseases for which he had no natural defenses. Kaito felt hunger growing, a familiar sensation that drove him to action. He looked for a natural water source, for animals to hunt. He tried to fish in a canal with a piece of wire, but the water was dark and oily, lifeless. He found synthetic foods in shiny packages that people ate without hesitation, but their plastic smell and strange flavor made him spit them out immediately. He realized that his battle for sustenance was against a world where food was produced in factories, not hunted in nature. He, the best hunter of his tribe, felt like he was starving to death in a world of artificial abundance. His soul, connected to the beauty and serenity of nature, felt suffocated by this garden of metal and lights, a world where the earth seemed to have been imprisoned under layers of concrete. Kaito looked at the sky, searching for the stars that guided his ancestors and that he used to orient himself. But he saw only intense light pollution, a constant veil of artificial light that hid the universe. He longed for the sound of the wind in the trees, the smell of wet earth after the rain, the comforting presence of nature. He felt a profound loneliness, a feeling of loss that was not just of a place, but of an era, of a way of life that had disappeared forever. In the Paleolithic, the lack of knowledge was a death sentence. In 2100, the lack of familiarity may be an even crueler sentence. What will a samurai do when his greatest strengths become his greatest weaknesses?
In Kaito's world, honor was forged in steel. In Sora's world, it was forged in code. She was a hacktivist, a digital vigilante who fought against the corporations that manipulated society. She saw in Kaito not a relic of the past, but an unexpected ally, a symbol of honor that she believed had disappeared. Kaito, desolate in the alley, was approached by this young figure with neon-colored hair and curious eyes, who extended her hand. He felt an instinctive distrust, but his warrior's eyes, accustomed to reading intentions, saw something familiar in her, a passion, a determination he recognized. Kaito followed her to an underground hideout, a space full of screens, computers, and holograms. He felt even more out of place, but Sora, with patience, showed him how his skills could be applied. Kaito's sword could not cut metal, but Sora showed him that it could inspire. She explained that the greatest evil of that world was not physical combat, but disinformation, data manipulation, and constant surveillance. She translated the concept for him using metaphors he could understand. A computer virus was like a poison that spread. A network of servers was like a fortress that needed to be invaded. His physical presence, his upright posture, his discipline were a powerful weapon in a world that had forgotten what it was to have a purpose. He realized that in the world of 2100, the battle was not fought with swords, but with ideas, and he, with his honor intact, could be the most lethal weapon of all. His Bushido code was clear: protect the weak and fight against injustice. Even if the sword was a virtual blade and the enemy a set of computer codes, the principle was the same. Sora asked Kaito to help her expose a scheme by Nexus Corp, a corporation that manipulated data to control public opinion. Kaito hesitated, confused by the terms data and corporation. But Sora translated the concept for him. Nexus Corp was acting without honor, disrespecting citizens, stealing their freedom. It was an injustice that his code forced him to fight. He felt his purpose being reborn within him. Kaito's skills were not useless, just outdated. He couldn't defeat technology, but he could use it against itself. Kaito and Sora infiltrate a main server of Nexus Corp. They are intercepted by a security cyborg, an advanced model with an energy shield. Kaito, seeing the threat, draws his sword. The fight is a deadly dance between the past and the future. Kaito, with his warrior's agility, manages to dodge the laser attacks. He uses his sword not to attack, but to cut strategic cables, create short circuits, and disable the enemy in a way that a common fighter would not be able to. He realizes that his dance with the cyborg is proof that honor, after all, could still exist in 2100, even if its manifestation was different. Sora manages to expose Nexus Corp's scheme, and the news spreads like wildfire on social media. People celebrate and thank her. Kaito, observing everything, has a new understanding of the word honor. He realizes that his battle is not for his lord, who no longer exists, but for the people who need a hero, a symbol. He didn't have a katana that could wound, but he had an honor that could inspire. He didn't have a lord to serve, but he had a people to protect. Kaito, the samurai, had not died in the past. He had been born into a new future. His journey has just begun. Will this samurai, with his ancestral code, find a new place in the future? Will he be able to inspire others to fight for honor in a world where it seems to have disappeared? Do you think Kaito will be able to adapt, or will his honor be his heaviest burden? Leave your opinion in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be part of this journey, and hit the bell to not miss the next episodes of Anachronia.